We are talking about the Hoover Dam.
Why the heck would people go out into the desert on a project like this? Because they didn't have much choice.
This is a dangerous environment. Drowning, blasting, accidents, falls, that sort of thing.
If you walked out of the tunnel and died 4 hours later, you didn't count.
The craftsmanship from the standpoint of drawings. Every single detail was hand-drawn. This is the most interesting fact about the Hoover Dam. The first man to die in the process of building was a man by the name of
If we can make it through an episode without making a damn joke.
You already did it. You already did it. We just broke it right there, man.
I did not.
It should have been an unspoken thing.
That's like, I bet you I can get you betting before the end of the day.
No, I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it. Mom falls for that one every time, though. It's pretty funny.
She does.
I bet you can't. No, Mom. That's
Mom,
the point.
that's the joke.
All right,
it's
cool.
the joke.
We love you, Mom. Yeah, don't spit in our food next time we come over. I wanted to do this one for a long time because there are a lot of different takeaways that we can bring to the table here. It's something that made Las Vegas possible, for one. Like, Las Vegas would not exist without it.
It's indirectly responsible for the Elvis wedding.
What?
Well, Elvis wedding's from Las Vegas, and Las Vegas would not be possible without the dam. So
this is going to be a hard episode, guys. Anyway, the other one is talking about safety.
Or not safety.
Or not so much safety, just go. Why are we always waiting? Just go. And then also just boldness too. We're talking about some of these owners. One of them was Bechtel. Contractor, sorry. Yeah, my bad. They went on to create some other things. One of them might have been the Golden Gate Bridge.
Small things.
Just a small little, bridge. There are a lot of different takeaways. That's the reason we're digging into it today.
Yep.
So let's talk about how big this thing is.
Okay. You got a consortium.
What that
That
word
means a
mean?
group.
Oh.
That means people together.
Okay.
6 companies, Inc.
They were like, how many of us? 6 companies.
It's more than a clever name.
I mean, it's actually pretty decent.
So they won an early bid for $49,860 million today.
I have a fun fact on that. They were the low bidder.
Interesting.
It was a government contract and they were the low bidder. I'll let you guys
do
with that what you will.
Yeah. So 726 feet tall. I love this. It's almost 200 feet taller than the Washington Monument. And I was sitting under the Washington Monument last weekend with my son.
Did you guys actually sit there and just?
That was how we ended our trip.
Oh, that's a cool.
We finished our last museum and we walked over and we sat under the Washington Monument and just kind of looked at the Capitol, and it was like a really nice day, and we just chilled there.
Over like the reflecting pool and all that stuff too, because that's all kind of like in a line, right?
Yeah, we sat on one side and just kind of stared out at the green space between that and the Capitol.
Sounds good.
And that was really cool. And then we were like, you want to switch spots? So then we went to the other side, and that looks out on the reflecting pool, the World War II monument, and good old Abe.
Did you see Forrest Gump trying to find Jenny while you were there?
No, but there were many references to Forrest Gump and also to National Treasure.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
At one point, Jeremiah asked me about something, and he's like, what is that? It was up in Arlington. I was like, I don't know, but I feel like it's got to be something significant. Quoting Riley from National Treasure.
Back to Hoover Dam.
726 feet tall, 200 feet taller than Washington Monument. At the time, there were only 6 buildings taller than this. 5,500,000 cubic yards of material was taken out, excavated, and another million put back. Another million cubic yards
Makes
of
you
fill.
wonder, why did they even take it away?
Perhaps it's because of what it was.
I'm not a civil guy, obviously. Anyway, move on.
4.4 million cubic yards of concrete. Its base is as thick as the length of 2 football fields end to end. Did I get that right?
That's a thick boy right there.
That's a
thick boy.
He's thick.
All
right. 2 rows of generators. There's one on each side of the river, 4 intake towers, 30-foot diameter each on the intakes.
Okay.
That gives us spillways, 17 turbines, 4 billion kilowatt hours of hydroelectric power.
So I want to hit some of these.
Big.
It's a big thing.
It's big.
That's the moral of the
big
story.
And lots and many, many things.
Moral of the story. We just wanted to make sure that you knew.
It's big.
It's big.
This doesn't even rank, though, really in the top dams of the world, though.
Really?
Yeah, like that was one of the fun facts is like there are quite a few dams that are bigger than this one now. Doesn't even make it into good old Encyclopedia Britannica.
Really?
Yeah. 24th according to some metrics. And I'm sure that's based on how much water it holds back, how tall, how long, wide, thick. Well,
maybe we need to do some more research here and see
on the biggest one.
What's the biggest one? That's what I want to know. All right, so I want to hit some of these cliff notes here, though, man, because you talked about the amount of concrete that was in this. It's enough to create a 4-foot wide sidewalk around the Earth at the equator. That's how much concrete is in the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, that's a lot of concrete.
That's a lot of.
That's a long sidewalk.
Not going to do the joke there.
Okay.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move on, right? Or enough to pave a 2-lane road from Seattle to Miami.
I like that fun fact.
That's pretty cool.
That is a long road.
That's a very long road.
A lot of concrete, and they've got enough.
And then the intake towers, they're 30 foot in diameter. They can carry enough water to fill 900 bathtubs in a second. 1 second.
Boom. Boom. There's another one.
I wonder how they tested that.
That's like 900 more.
Just counting out.
Should I keep going?
No.
There's 900 more.
Wow, we're all right. Well, we're at a lot of bathtubs being filled right now. Golly, I wonder how many bathtubs could be filled in the amount of time it takes for us to record this episode. Lee, I want you to do the calculation and put that in the show notes. That'd be a fun one for everybody.
By the end, we'll know how many bathtubs.
How many bathtubs could have been filled by the Hoover Dam by the end of this thing?
I want to know how frustrated they were when they only brought 895 bathtubs out and poured them all out into the intakes, and it didn't, in fact, fill them up. And they had to bring 5 more out into the desert just to figure out it was 900.
Yeah,
Do you think that's the way they did the test?
They had to.
Maybe.
I mean, like, come on, it's science. Okay, so here's something interesting. The construction costs. So we talked about how it was 48 million or 49 million. Sorry, the construction costs were just paid off in 1987. It
was 50 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So the build,
geez, man.
Yeah, the project lasts 5 years, and then goes from April 31 to March of 36. It was actually ahead of schedule by 2.5 years. And I add 50 years to kind of the completion era date. And there you go, 1987.
And they're still paying off stuff. So
repayment, they had to reinvest.
Repayment of additional 25 million construction costs were repaid in will be repaid in 2037. So, oh my gosh, man. That's absolutely bonkers.
The flood control costs of 25 million. I mean, so you've got as much in a second phase for flood control as half of the original project. But very interesting. It made me think, when we invest in these like capital spending projects and the horizon is so long, 50 years, like in some ways you're spending tomorrow's money. It's odd to think about how we built this for 49 million. It's like thinking about that piece of land that you wished you'd have bought in the early 2000s.
Yeah. And
thinking, oh man, what would that be worth today?
Yeah.
Or that, the house that has now inflated or whatever.
Yeah.
So the spending on this scale it's just kind of hard to get your head wrapped around.
Yeah, it shows the capital, like those big projects like that. They're just looking at them in a different angle, right? Like for a lot of like the developers and different things, it's like 5 years, maybe 10, maybe 15, like at best. When you get in these government side of things, it's so much longer.
They're paying for 50 years on this thing to get it paid down. They pay it off in 87. They got 25 million more in flood control. Yeah. That's going to be paid off someday. But think about all of the production that has come out of that. Think about everything, like all of the monetary boost of Vegas.
Right.
Or like one of the major recipients of this power. Did you read that part?
Well, yeah, I'm going to that. So where the electricity goes, 19% Arizona, 23% to Nevada, and 58% goes to California. And then 15% specifically to LA, which is 270 miles away. So yeah, I mean, those are...
You're powering LA.
You're powering LA.
Yeah.
I love how we, 2,080 megawatts daily average. It's enough to power a city of 750 or to power 35 million old school incandescent light bulbs.
Yeah.
I like how we put that in there. That's nice.
No carbon burn going on while we're generating all of this power.
That's another
hydroelectric power.
It's hydroelectric.
Yeah.
And so this is a clean energy project, right? Mm-hmm. From the 30s.
Yeah.
That's even better. I never put that together, but you are so right.
You know what I like? Can you name another thing that you think of President Herbert Hoover for? 'Cause I got one thing that really hangs in my mind when I hear the last name Hoover.
Hoover vacuums? Like, is that not him? That's something different.
I mean, it may be the family. I'm not sure how he came to this, status he had.
Yeah. Probably vacuums.
Hoovervilles.
Hoovervilles?
Hoovervilles.
Explain that to me.
Okay,
what's a Hooverville?
Hooverville, so you had the Roaring 20s.
Yes.
And then you had the Great Depression through the 30s. And then a lot of people say World War II is what brought us up out of that.
Yep.
There were a lot of public projects that happened to try to stimulate the economy. Mm-hmm. You had the TVA. Like there were a lot of projects of this nature going on during this time. So this is 31 to 36 that this is happening through. And it gets the name, the Hoover Dam. I want to say the original was like the Black Canyon Project or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but Herbert Hoover for the Hoovervilles, like this isn't somebody that's terribly well thought of. Hoovervilles were the shanty towns that would form in the middle of major cities as a result of people losing their work during the Depression.
Yeah.
So he didn't get a whole lot of positive PR. Mm-hmm. Same president.
Yeah.
So that's the Hoover Dam. So kind of maybe a positive reference.
Yeah, there's like an old movie that I think the Hoover Dam was like being worked on or something like that. And it showed some of those little shanty towns and just the fact it was just a crappy environment to do all this work in, honestly.
That sort of thing is depicted in Cinderella Man.
Yeah.
Also, new movie Boys in the Boat, like I know one of the characters comes out of one of the Hoovervilles. So it's
maybe a Cinderella Man. I don't know.
Cinderella Man that's definitely in Cinderella Man.
The Hoover Dam was in Cinderella Man, or the shanty towns?
The shanty towns and just so.
I was about to say that. I thought that was like New York or something like that.
And why bring that up here? It is interesting.
What is the point?
The point being, like, people are very hungry for work.
Yeah.
You look at the like we're about to probably get into the work environment,
the manpower.
Let's get what's required.
Yeah.
Why the heck would people go out into the desert on a project like this?
Yeah.
And risk life and limb to go make a dime?
Yeah.
It's because they didn't have much choice.
Yeah.
So work was not readily available during this time.
So total of 21,000 men were involved in the planning and construction. And on average, 3,500 men worked on the dam daily. This is a dangerous environment. All right, this is pre-OSHA. Like this is cowboy stuff right here.
Yeah, Mr. OSHA wasn't out there yet.
Nah, this isn't OSHA town. This is we get it done, and hey, how many did we lose today? Oh, all right, not that bad. Nobody, sweet. That's a high five all around sort of day. It shows how much times have changed for the better.
Yeah,
honestly, for the better, because getting people home safe at night is kind of a nice thing to prioritize. 4 workers died from heat exhaustion each week. And this was diversionary tunnels. This was in the diversionary tunnels where temperatures could reach 140 degrees.
Yeah, send them down the tunnels, have them working and digging and everything like that. You got 4 falling out a week.
I mean, geez, dude.
Total of 96 lost. But that doesn't include the ones that were dying of heat exhaustion. So like if you walked out of the tunnel and died 4 hours later, you didn't count. as a construction fatality. You just died.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't even put that together. Okay, so on top of the 96 that died from construction-related accidents, drowning, blasting, accidents, falls, that sort of thing. 200 men died as a result of the construction. More than 200 men died as a result of the construction. That is nuts. Okay, this is the most interesting fact about the Hoover Dam.
Is this yours?
This is the
This
one.
is the Tyler special?
This is the Tyler special. All right. The most interesting part of the Hoover Dam is that the first man to die in the process of building the Hoover Dam was a guy named J.G. Turney. Okay. He was a surveyor and he died from drowning. Okay. Horrible way to go. All right. 14 years later, the last man to die on the Hoover Dam was a man by the name of Patrick Turney, JG's son. So the first man to die was JG Turney, and the last man to die was Patrick Turney, father and son.
14 years apart.
14 years apart, same project.
Wow. I'm impressed, man. That is gold right
That's
there.
interesting, no?
That is an interesting fact. Oh, man.
14 years separated. So, you see why I was excited about that one.
Oh, yeah.
That fact kind of spurred me on. I was like, we got to talk about this because this is very interesting. Of like, I mean, golly, guys, like, this would be, I mean, obviously, this is unacceptable by today's standards, like the death rate and all of, obviously, it should have been unacceptable then, quite frankly. But it was just a different era.
Yeah.
But I think it's crazy how even just like families being so attached to a project like this, they, literally gave everything to build this thing.
Yeah. It makes me think of Empire State, which is another one that would be a great study.
It's another bucket list
for sure
podcast episode for me, for sure.
Well, and the reason being is because like this project, they're touting it came in 2.5 years ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
And very interesting, 6 companies, Inc., agreed to a $3,000 per day penalty for being late. So you can think like these guys were cracking the whip. And many times, like we bring up Empire State Building and we go, they went so fast then.
Yeah.
But we can't really duplicate that kind of process and speed pace now.
Yeah.
What the heck? But then you think through the safety that wasn't there in order to get it done.
Yeah.
And you go,
okay. Yeah.
Okay. There were reasons for slowing down and not losing 200 people in 5 years.
Yeah.
Can you think of or fathom a project where we lose 200 people on a project over the course of only 5 years?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
40 guys a year, man. Nuts.
That is absolutely bonkers. $3,000 a day as a penalty. I don't feel like many companies would take that on today. Like that's a little bit of a like, hey, you got some risk in this if you don't get it right. So I mean, they were definitely cracking the whip a heck of a lot harder than any other project. Good grief, man. 2.5 years ahead of schedule for something this large. Holy smokes.
What's interesting is there's not a mention of a bonus for bringing it in that far ahead of schedule.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and that was something we talked about with Lee Evie on the Pentagon renovation, is that they would do bonuses based off of you meeting schedules or expectations.
Yeah.
All right. So you would kind of get a grade and then you would get a bonus for meeting it.
Yeah.
There's no real benefit. I mean, I guess in cost, their bonus was the fact that they had some cost savings.
They didn't lose the money.
Yeah. That was their bonus essentially, right? It's like their contingency is just getting eaten up every single day.
They're just not in danger of the liquidated damages that they're going to have to pay at the end.
Golly.
And I mean, there are contracts that definitely do incorporate penalties for coming in late.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's kind of break this down. Like, all right, what were some of your takeaways from all of this research? What is the most interesting part of this equation for you?
When you think big, you're able to accomplish things that you have not accomplished before. This took this consortium of companies coming together to accomplish it. So there was a kind of a meeting of the minds that had to happen. There were all these things that came together to make it possible because it was such an undertaking. It was so large a project. And then I find it very interesting that after the fact, that the band stays together and they kind of are feeling big and bulletproof after this and almost like challenging the world, like, give us something to build.
Yeah.
Nothing's too big.
Yeah.
Nothing's too odd. Show us and we'll build it for you. So they just came out of this thing confident because they went, fought the lion and won.
Yeah.
And then came out of it and said, yeah, let's go to the next one. We can do it again.
Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
Which I don't think all 6 companies went to that, but I mean, quite a few of them did.
Yeah. When you swing big and win, you get some street cred and confidence out of it, and you tend to go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And I could testify to this in large projects that I didn't think I was really ready for, but I was able to do them.
It grows you.
It grows you.
Yeah.
It grows you in a way that other things don't.
That's a good word, dude, is that if you are biting off a little more than you can chew, like sometimes that's not a bad thing. Like stress actually will cause you to grow and get better, especially as like a PM, as an engineer, as anything in this industry. It sucks when you're under the weight of that. But the only way that you're going to get stronger, the only way you're going to get better is to kind of take it on and deal with it. And that's kind of evident here. Okay, 2 main takeaways from me. One is that obviously there's nothing new under the sun. This idea of green energy, honestly, this idea of like that being new technology, we're trying to produce power clean. Dude, we were doing that in the 30s. That's the craziest thing to me, is like you just forget that stuff like that has happened already. And the planning for this, that is the other side of this. The planning and the research for this whole project started in 1900. It had been going for 30 years prior to the congressional approval to go and actually build this thing.
Yeah.
Like, so we were thinking about that all the way back then. So when somebody talks about something being new and like, oh, this is groundbreaking, I'm like, that's why I like looking at these projects, is because you see that and you say, no, not really though. Like there's other stuff that has been done. You're forgetting this. So it's a good reality check for us as an industry to go back and read some of these different things. And I mean, the other side of this, the craftsmanship. In spite of all the deaths, I'm gonna push those aside for just a second, all right? The craftsmanship from the standpoint of drawings, the craftsmanship from the standpoint of just the people in the field putting this stuff together. Like every single detail in this, every single detail was hand-drawn. And that just blows my ever-loving mind to think of that. All right. We have the luxury of being able to model everything in 3D these days and spin it around and all of that. But man, they saw it in their head and they were able to draw it out and say, like, this is what we want to build. And you think about just the granular detail that had to happen just in that drawing and conceptualization phase. Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And so before we get all high and mighty and thinking that, oh, we got it all figured out and things are like, BIM, ooh, like it's amazing, dude. I think if we brought those people into today and they kind of looked at what we were doing, they'd be like, yeah, but where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of the detail? Like, how do you actually build that? This is lackluster, this is lacking in so many different areas. And so that to me stands out too in some of these different projects, these older projects, is dude, the amount of detail work that goes into that and the setup and the design that goes into something like this.
Really cool project. Some good takeaways.
Yeah.
And much to be learned. I think as we look back, we can learn lessons to move us forward. As a history guy, I'm not going to say history buff or anything like that. I just appreciate history.
Yeah.
I wish I knew more of it.
Yeah.
And it's insane how we can learn when we take a little adventure and look back a bit. And this is definitely one. It was a feat in its day. It was insanely innovative. Yeah. It was gigantic. And yeah, we take a little bit of a step back and look at it with some humility about where we sit and think, well, they did it with a lot less tech.
Yeah.
A lot more horse sense.
Grateful for the things that we have now, which is more safety. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, but also I think there's much to be learned on them being able to do all of this with so much less than what we have right now. And the product that they were able to create is pretty impressive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, heck, yeah, man, I love these episodes where we get to dive in to projects like this.
For sure.
It just charges me up because, like you, I like history. I like, and even present day, some of the different things that are going on, with Big Bend and, the line and talking about some of those different projects too. I want to hear though, is if you guys have a project that is just kind of curious about, maybe there's something we could break down. So email us. Come back to us and let us know, hey, I would love to hear more about this, and we'll sick researcher Lee on that and see what he comes back with, and we'll do some study as well. So just email us, contact@brospodcast.com, and we'll put that one into the queue if it's something that sparks some interest between Eddie and I, because I think that's the test, is if we see it and we're like, ooh, we'll go chase it down.
Sure.
All right, guys. Well, with that, go build something awesome.